thanks for coming, everybody. We'll start the meeting with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll go ahead and start with the approval of the agenda with some additions. We've got them listed here on your agenda on the table. We're going to add K5, Jeremy Casey resignation from the electric department under personnel. We're going to add L1, the attorney's report, Dodge County Fair Agreement. We're going to move C1 to C2, our tip. So we're going to add C1 visitor Carl Grombeck from SBA, and we're going to change L4, which is, that's going to be K4. We're going to change K4 to ask for 2 elected positions. We were advertising for 1, but now we have another resignation, so we're going to do 2. And we're going to add K6, library director's resignation. Any other additions, Nancy? Corrections, Dan? Dwayne?
No.
No. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second? Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously, Linda. Consent agenda, everything is in the packet. Any changes to that or updates from committees?
I'll just make a notation that the planning commission minutes, there was a change at our last meeting on Monday. I don't know if it's necessary. Do you want to know what the change was?
Sure.
Under the, it's on the second page, under the Wilker rezone discussion, there was a statement made by me that the zoning was appropriate. It reads as the zoning that he was applying for, it was appropriate, and I had Linda change it to the current zoning is appropriate for what he was, for. So that change was made.
Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve with that as a change.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 1, mayor's report. Just a couple different things that are going on. You know, our Towns Festival just got done. I think everything went well this weekend on that. And there were people disappointed with a few things that were canceled because of the weather, but as we've learned over the last 2 months, there's not a lot we can really do about that. I had a chance to go to the joint ventures meeting last Wednesday, which is a joint venture between City of Manorville School District and the City of Casson. And what we do as part of our budget every year, we've been doing this since 2008. Each entity makes a contribution into a pooled joint venture fund, and then shared equipment is purchased, improvements to outdoor spaces are made that all 3 entities or communities share. So over the years, just in, you know, we put in about $105,000 of that since 2008, including this budget year. And we've had, with the $15,000 that's going into Lions Park for the pavilion, about $43,000 of direct City of Casson improvements, either ball fields or improvements to things that are in the city limits of Casson. Plus, we've shared in equipment purchases of $65,000. Plus another 12, so about 78,000. We just purchased a Z-sprayer, so for spraying the fields and everything you have to do for the pesticides and herbicides there. So all 3 cities, or the 2 cities and the school went together and purchased that piece of equipment, which all 3 entities can use. So each entity doesn't have to buy a $12,000 piece of equipment. So over the years, we've saved, we got a return on our investment. So that's going well between the 3 entities there. We'll have an update later, you know, get into the flood issue. We'll have an update during our administrator's report on the electric credit. We'll have some recommendations there on how to proceed with that. As far as the I&I that we've discussed at length at the last 2 meetings. The plans were put together at the last meeting of ideas of what can be done. So that's a very big detail. If somebody missed the last meeting, that is available online in the packet. It tells exactly what those were. There's a paragraph explanation by Brandon. And he's bringing that back tonight as far as an actionable item for us to go ahead and say, get started on some of this stuff and go. So that's later in the engineer's report. The flood mitigation portion is ongoing, so we're going to get some kind of update on that in the future as far as, there are flood mitigation funds available at the state level from the FEMA stuff that took place in Duluth this year. So we have to get our ducks in a row for getting that application in when we can. So those things are all moving forward. So we'll get to those later in the meeting, and that's all I've got for right now. So let's go to visitors of the council. Carl, one more thing. I'm sorry, Carl. As far as the flood recovery efforts too, we set aside the $100,000 from the electric fund for the $3,000 0% 5-year loans through Semtra. We'll get an update from them with their monthly report. We don't have any details on that yet, as far as how many people are accessing it and that type of thing. So that's one resource that's available. Carl's going to tell us a little bit about the SBA program that's available, and then if the SBA program is not available for someone where they get denied, then we can go into this Quick Start program through the state, which is money that people can apply for up to $15,000. If they maintain and live in their property for 10 years after that, that loan is forgiven. It accrues at 0% interest, and if somebody maintains their property and lives there for 10 years, the loan is forgiven. So there are opportunities for people to get involved in finding some of this. A letter went out to everybody who was on the list. So we harped for over a month, get on the list, call the city hotline. If they were on the list, or the county hotline, those 220 or 25 properties or so, they all got a letter. Nancy put one together last week describing all 3 programs, inviting people to come in and take advantage of at least kicking the tires to find out what they were about. Actually, I think Carl's going to explain too why it's important to even apply for the loan even if you don't think you need it. So, Carl?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, honorable city council members, before I get started, I wanted to say a sincere thank you on behalf of my colleagues and me for making City Hall available to us so that we could meet with your neighbors and explain to them the help that was available. We probably saw over 50 in the week that we were here and took in some 35 applications as of last night. I don't know what we did today, but I know we were busy. So we're glad we were able to get the help out, and I just wanted to say staff has been excellent, and I don't think we've ever been made to feel more welcome. The program we have is basically a loan program. It's for anybody in Dodge and the 5 contiguous counties who had damage from the storms that happened between June 27th and July 7th. There are 2 components to it, for physical damage and for economic injury, which is restricted to small businesses. The limits are somewhat different because businesses obviously have a greater exposure. They can borrow up to $2 million for physical damage, economic injury, or a combination of both. Homeowners can borrow up to $200,000 for damage to their real estate and up to another $40,000 for their damage to personal property. And even if you're a renter, you can borrow up to $40,000 for damage to personal property, and that does include automobiles. So if you had hail damage or flood damage to the car, that is possibly something that we could take a look at. Now, you do need to apply, and unfortunately, since our center is closed, you're restricted to applying online. A very simple URL, disasterloan.sba.gov, or you can call our 800 number at 800-659-2955, and they will send you a paper application if that's the way you want to go. You have until September 30th to return those to us and get in the system. And please do that even if you have insurance, because we don't want you to wait for your insurance to settle and exclude yourself because you've gone beyond the deadline. We'd like you to get into the system. And as the mayor said, even if you think you don't want a loan, if you find or if we agree that you can't afford it, then we will refer you to the Quick Start program. It's not a program you can go to directly, and that's why it's important to apply for the SBA loan, again, even if you don't think you can afford it. If you aren't 100% sure that you want it, apply anyway, because if we approve it, you don't have to take it immediately. You can say, no, I'm not quite sure yet, put a pin in it for 6 months. And if down the road you realize it's costing me more, my insurance paid less, whatever the case, I actually do need that, it's another tool in your recovery toolkit. So don't let the time go by if you have a need, and share that with your neighbors as well. Now, the economic injury for business is a little bit different. The deadline to file for that is May 1st of next year, largely because economic injury often takes longer to manifest. But if you're in a business situation and because of the storms you have seen impacts to your cash flow, if you're not able to keep your payables current, by all means apply, because we don't want to make a physical disaster become a financial disaster as well. So again, online or by the toll-free number by September 30th. You can also call the toll-free number if you just want more information. And I have a number of fact sheets I will leave here at City Hall. You can feel free to access those. And again, either go online or call our toll-free number, talk to one of our representatives, and find out what's available for you. And again, please, if you had damage, don't let the time go by and let this get away from you. Any questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to do. Great.
Thank you, and as I was talking to Nancy before the meeting, your staff was fantastic here, all week professional, and they even vacuumed the conference room before they left, so they left it better than they found it, just like they said they would, so.
Okay.
We were glad that we had the space to accommodate it, and that we could do it right here in town, so it was convenient for our viewers too.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
nice to
you.
meet you. And I failed to mention during the mayor's report, as long as we're talking about the flood stuff, I had contacted the KM Karen Chair a few weeks ago, and they did get back to me on Friday. They're gonna make a $10,000 donation to that $100,000 loan program that we set up. So they're gonna add $100,000 to that $3,000 loan program. And they're also gonna make a donation to the city of $5,000 to go toward the electric rebate program that we're gonna talk about in just a little bit. So,
Really good.
it's $15,000 from the KM Karen Share. So that was very, very nice of them to do that, and anybody who does go to that every fall realizes, that money does get spent right back in the community, so appreciate that. Art TIP Summer Reading Program Results and Awards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have Ms. Pat come up. Patricia Schaefer-Gottschalk, who's in charge of the summer reading program. This is my 7th year, and every year it's been a record-breaking year. And she did a tremendous job this year. We did it again this year. So, Ms. Pat, it's yours.
Thank you so much for allowing us to spend a few minutes. I've brought our top readers with us, and they will be sharing some prepared remarks in just a minute. My name is Pat Schaefer-Gottschalk. I'm the librarian here at Casson Library and the coordinator of the summer reading program, which is the joy of my life. We have so much fun every summer doing this. I've given you a summary sheet. I think all of you have one. You can see the numbers this year were just phenomenal. We had tremendous numbers of kids who registered and took part, and what we celebrate is reading and lifelong learning, the ability to read, to achieve, and you will hear some remarkable things in what they're going to tell you in just a couple of minutes. I want to highlight just the first paragraph there. About 6 years ago, we started a teen program. Before that, it had been exclusively for children. And 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we began an adult program. And you can see the numbers of teens and adults who participated. The kids, that is 11 and under, read a total of 10,668 hours, probably a few more than that. That was my final tally. The highest ever. If I netted that out, I think it was, I can't remember exactly. Everyone was reading, an hour every day, or there were hundreds of hours every week. It was just a phenomenal amount. And it was up, as you can see, quite a bit from last year, which had broken records prior to then. And then, if you add to that 742 books, which were read by teens and adults, and we're talking about a 7-week period here, that is probably easily, my guess is another 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 hours from the teens and adults. If you want to stop by the library, we have some visual displays of the books that were read and the kids who took part celebrating their achievements. I'm going to ask in just a minute that the 3 top readers come up. Now, these 3 kids that are going to come forward are really remarkable. They are wonderful kids. They are serious readers already, and I think they have found the joy of reading so young in their life. They each have read well over 100 hours, around 150 or even some more. So they are going to highlight some of the great things and fun things that we did this summer, and then in a moment, the mayor and I will present them with some gifts to celebrate that. So first, I would like to ask Audra Lorbach to come on up.
Audra Lorbach, and it is an honor to be here. I would like to tell you a few things about the summer reading program at the Casson Public Library. For the past 3 years, the library has started off the summer with a kickoff event on the library lawn. There are games, prizes, free hot dogs, and a special water show this year. It's a fun way to begin the summer, and 402 people were there. The summer reading program has a special event, usually on Fridays, called Fun Fridays. A bagpiper came and filled the library with music while 98 of us listened, and Jason the juggler entertained 420 and dazzled us by juggling fire torches. The past 3 years, the Casson librarians have partnered with KM Elementary School and have provided story times for the classes during the summer school. The librarians have also partnered with 10 other child care providers in Casson to bring great books and story times. Each week, reading therapy dog comes to the library too. This year, more than 1,000 kids attended to these story times. It takes a lot of help to make a successful summer reading program, and we are so thankful for our volunteers who offer their help this summer. 53 people volunteered their time at the Casson Library. Thank you for this opportunity to share information about the summer reading program with you.
Thank you, Audra. Wonderful job. Now I'd ask Arabella Eagleson to come forward.
My name is Arabella Eggleston, and it is an honor to be here. I'd like to tell you a few things about the summer reading program at Casson Public Library. Each week, the library has several contests. The contest called Where Was Rocket makes us guess where Rocket is. The library's stuffed animal mascot was visiting. And like at the Star Park Greenhouse was in the fairgrounds this year. Over 1,000 kids took part in this contest. The summer reading program has many special events called Fun Fridays. The Minnesota Zoo brought live animals to give us a program, and 491 to see. A famous author, William Ken Kudrell, was a great speaker to 179 people on July 12th. It's amazing to see how many people are excited to see the special event, both adults and kids. This year, all the people attending special events totaled 2,466. This year, 543 kids took part in the summer reading program. But Casson offers summer programs for teens and adults. This year, there are 70 teenagers and 112 adults who participate. The library says it's fun reading from 1 to 91. Thanks for this opportunity to share information about the summer reading program with you.
Thank you so much, Arabella. And now I'd ask Andrew Holt to please come up and share some words with us.
My name is Andrew Holtz, and it is an honor to be here. I would like to tell you a few things about the summer reading program at the Casson Public Library. Each week, the library hosts several contests. One of the most popular contests was the pizza and ice cream giveaway. Local businesses generally give gift certificates, and this year, over 1,000 kids entered this contest. The summer reading program also has Fun Fridays and other special events. This year, an educator from Eagle Bluff Environmental Learning Center brought a portable planetarium to help us learn about planets, stars, and constellations. There were 177 kids and parents who really enjoyed this. During the summer, kids keep track of our reading hours on logs, and for each hour we read, we earn a point. The library counts all these points and creates a store for kids to choose books, school supplies, and fun prizes as a reward for our reading. The store was held over two days at the end of July, and 576 people came. Studies show that kids who read over the summer score much higher on tests the next school year. We are better prepared to enter the next grade. This year, area kids read more than ever before. When all our logs were totaled, we read altogether 10,668 hours in 7 weeks. That's amazing. Thank you for this opportunity to share information about the summer reading program with you.
Would you come over here?
Sure.
And Audra and Arabella, would you come up, please?
Coincidence that all our names start with A?
I know, we weren't, they're at the top of the list. Here, that's going to be the first one. All right, our wonderful, fantastic readers, Audra Lorbach. I'm going to call you first. Go on up and say your name.
Congratulations, 141 hours. That's more than I read all of college.
And Arabella.
I believe it.
And here's Arabella Eagleton.
Arabella, 149 hours. Congratulations to you, Carol.
And this is for Andrea.
182.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to Pat. This is, I know, after being on the library board for a couple of years, this is one of her passions, so it couldn't happen without her.
This is what the new library has done for Casson. It's a remarkable thing that you allowed us to do when we built this. It's made a special thing for the city. Last night at the board meeting, excuse me for a second here. 7 years at Casson. It's time for retirement. When you live to be 115, it's time to give up, So I want to thank Dan Egler for the money that he has given me to build this library in the city of Casson. So I appreciate everything that the city has done for me, and it's time to move on, so thank you.
Thanks. Okay, on to public forum. I've got a couple cards here. Tony Paulson. Come up, state your name and address.
Tony Paulson, 603 2nd Street, Northwest Casson. Concerns golf carts running amok in Casson. Does anybody sitting back here have any idea ordinances, rules, regulations on them?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
I could email it to you.
Let's ask
Better
the
yet, why don't you
police
stop
officer.
down at the police station? and
How about
give
you
all
guys
the-
kind of keep an eye out,
We do,
and
sir.
do you? Because they constantly cross
In fact-
57 and 34 all the time.
Yeah, we've
And on
implemented
private
a new ordinance and everything addressing that, so.
You're addressing it.
Yep.
Because I'm getting sick of them crossing private property every day they do.
What-
And it
where
gets
do they
sick of
cross
it.
at?
The old Images building. They cross the parking lot, go through the grass, cut up on the sidewalk,
Oh, so they're
no
not-
motorized vehicles on the sidewalks, am I correct?
Yep.
I do know that much. I'm not trying to be a thorn in anybody's
No.
side, but I get sick of it. I've talked to 2 guys already, chased them down, because, you know, I never see a cop talking to a guy on a golf cart. Ever have I seen that. But I see the golf carts running all around town just amok.
Well, it happens, so.
Well, I've yet to see it happen.
Tony, in his defense, we did have one parent come in and she was out because the police pulled their kid over on a golf cart. So we have had complaints from the other side, so we do know that the police are working to enforce the ordinance. It just hasn't happened on your property yet, and I'm not trying to say that it shouldn't, but we've had people coming in and complaining because it is enforced. So we do know that it is being enforced. It's an ongoing thing.
It's gonna take some time.
Well, I think-
Personally, I think they should just forget about them, just park them in a shed.
I know this weekend over the festival, I know there were 3 people that were stopped and asked for their permit and whatever.
Do they have to get permits for
Yeah,
them?
you have to go down and get it, yes.
Okay.
And I think here's our biggest problem, right? We have 2 police officers on at any given one time. And unless they see it, there's nothing they can do about it.
Mhm.
So, if you see it, call it in, I mean.
I've called it in several times, and I don't know, you've probably heard my name before, I don't know. The one guy actually hollered across the railroad tracks, and the kid's gone.
Right. I mean,
You
so
know.
I think part of it is just they gotta be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
With only 2 people on at
Yep.
any given one time. But it is being addressed, I know, 'cause I know 3 people this weekend complained to me that they were asked about driving a golf cart. And I just said, well, that's just the way it is, go down to the police station and get the deal, and I know one person did Monday morning.
So, they can't go on County Road 34, is that correct?
No, they can't.
They can go on
Yeah.
34?
The only thing they're not supposed, they can cross parallel on 57, they can't drive down 57.
Okay.
Other than that, they can drive the streets as long as they're registered with us and that they have their slow moving and a rear view mirror.
And,
License, yeah, the registration, and it's gotta be proof of insurance, so when they come in and register their golf cart, they have to have that specifically insured too, coverage, so.
Because all the ones I've seen, I've only seen 2 with the SMB centers.
Right. And that's, I think
And
that's part
that's
of
why
it.
we're trying to address this
Yep.
and educate you.
Yeah. Well, educational was so far.
Thanks,
All
Tom.
right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Dawn?
Dawn Underwood, 1701 11th Avenue Northeast, and I think some of my concerns might be addressed later in the meeting from what you're talking about, but I was just wondering what steps have been taken to improve the water flow through that neighborhood, 11th Avenue Northeast. My husband and I work alternating shifts, so we're kind of talk to each other in passing, but he thinks he's noticed some city people kind of looking around that neighborhood to see if there's anything to be done. And I just was wondering if anybody discussed that area yet.
It's ongoing and being done.
Okay.
So.
It's on its way.
Yes.
Okay.
We're looking at everything.
All right. And then I just had questions about the reimbursement, but I think you're going to
We'll
be
get that
talking about
in a
that
second.
later on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Dawn. Okay, that's the only 2 cards I had, so anybody else on a card? New business, police, repair of police department, number 1. So in your packet, each one is a repair of police department, which was damaged several times with the flooding. So you see there we've got bids on what that's gonna take to do. Chief, anything to add on that at all, or any?
We have one bid from Johnson Construction was, that had the carpet in it too, I believe, and if we went with the epoxy flooring, or
Polytech.
Polytech flooring, excuse me, which I would prefer other than carpet. So that price would drop down, I think it was $7,000 or something over the cost of carpet, so.
Sure.
Other than that, no.
Just times we replace the carpet.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something that you can mop up and not have to wash. And over time, we spend it's like $800 a year on carpet cleaning, so the difference would be made up for like 5 years or so, and you'd have that expense made up.
Okay.
Plus the tearing out, you won't have to worry about.
Any questions or discussion from council on that?
No.
No, I actually had talked with Lonnie earlier. I was wondering about officers coming in in the wintertime with snow on their boots and stuff, as to whether this type of Polytech flooring is slippery.
Yeah, this one has a little, you can put the grit in it and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So, that's what Lonnie said too, and then on top of that, if necessary, need to get some runners or something, get that on top of it, but
For sure.
I'm in agreement with the Polytech if the council.
I like the fact that they're adding gutters too.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the bid with Polytech flooring.
Second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one was the moving estimate detail. This is
Like up to $1,250.
$1,250 for moving all the heavy things that have to come in the truck. So, it's gotta be done to get the whole thing gutted and done, so I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Administrators report.
Okay, the first item in that area is to set the preliminary and final budget and levy dates. We are asked every year by the county to let them know what dates you have chosen, particularly for the final levy dates along with the backup dates. We always need to report that to them, so that's why we're asking at this time to officially acknowledge those dates. The August 28th, you can see the date there, that's just letting you know that that's when you'll see the first draft of the 2020 budget. There's a typo there. And then the preliminary levy will be proposed on September 11th along with the budget, and we invite people to come. We no longer have truth and taxation hearings, but we need to invite people from the community to come and discuss. So we do that at both the preliminary levy and the final levy. And then, again, the official dates for the preliminary is being proposed as December 11th with a backup date of December 18th. And given that, you would need to officially approve the change of the second December council meeting from December 25th to December 18th. So looking for approval for the rest of the schedule and addressing the preliminary levy on September 11th, and then officially changing the second council meeting date to December 18th.
Okay, sure you don't wanna meet on the 25th of December?
We're all in food coma.
I'll be here. So, okay. Thanks, Nancy, for putting that together. And just as we go through these dates and approve them, those will be set. And then something else, as we think about dates at the next council meeting, we're gonna be setting the dates for interviews for the new city administrator positions. So everybody bring your calendars with you as we get these set here, so. Entertain a motion to approve the schedule.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Nancy.
Okay,
Next.
and then just to detail in the motion, though, that the second meeting date is moved.
As you have the document.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Then, just to address a little bit of the electric committee credit that had been discussed, I shared some information with Mayor McClern, who's going to share that with you.
Okay, so when I first started talking about this and Nancy was looking at me like, okay, so what Cassie put this together. So I went through and she took, again, what we had to work off of was the list that we had the people call the county hotline to say you had damage. So we pretty much got that word out there by letter, by social media, by every way possible to get on the list. So everybody that was on the list that said they were affected by the flooding, we took 2 looks at it. to see which one would come out best in the person who was damaged favor. So we looked at the July billing of 19, because that would be the one that was larger, due to any flooding issues you would have had. And we looked at June of 19, and we looked at July of 18, and did a comparison. And the July to July comparison was much less than the July to June comparison. So my recommendation to the council is that we go with the July to June comparison. And the total dollar amount difference is, when we go July to July, it was total, I've got a list of the numbers. We can't have addresses or names because electric data is private data, state of Minnesota. So when we went from July to July, it was about a $4,500 total credit for the 225 people on the list. And there were a lot of folks that it is actually negative, where it wasn't any more for them than it was year before. And that has to do by temperature last year, air conditioning, that type of thing. When you look at July compared to the previous month, it's about 14,500, so about 10,000 more. But there, out of that whole list, there's only one or two people that are, I think, that are negative by a couple dollars, where it wouldn't really be a credit for them, but it didn't cost them any more than the month before. So we have to have some kind of parameters there. So my recommendation, when I was talking with Nancy, and she said okay, was that we went with the one that has the larger credit for the people affected. Because when we look at weather from July to June, it was pretty similar. July to July was not similar, so we're not really comparing anything apples to apples. So I would recommend that we go with the $14,500 total, of which Karen Share is donating $5,000 to, so the impact to the actual city taxpayers is $9,500. So that was my rationale behind that. Get everybody on that list some kind of credit. I mean, it ranges from just a couple dollars up to $194, $253. I mean, so there's some folks that had a much larger impact. Obviously, they had more fans, dehumidifiers, that type of thing running. So that's my recommendation to council. Any questions on that or concerns? Okay, I'll make. Yep.
I just had one question from somebody, and they just wanted to know, they didn't have water damage, but they were saying that they were running extra dehumidifiers. Where was their...
Were they on the list?
No, but they said they didn't have water damage, but they still...
I didn't have water damage, but I had dehumidifiers.
You know, so they were just wondering how that was...
I mean, you gotta draw the line somewhere. If they're not on the list, they're not on the list.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's intended for the folks that have the most damage, because if I had just a little bit of wet in my basement and ran the dehumidifier for an extra week that I normally don't, well, I'm out $30 on my electric bill. But if I had to rip out all my sheetrock and carpet and everything else, that's more of a hardship than you have stuff running under. Not that I don't have compassion for the person that has the wet basement that didn't have damage, but if you didn't have damage, to me, it's not the same.
No,
And I get where they're coming from.
I
but-
had to ask, because it was asked of me, and I wanted to bring it up, so we had an answer.
Yeah. So
These people have to apply for this, or we're
we'll
automatically doing it?
It'll automatically be done.
Okay.
We picked up everybody who
On the list,
originally applied for it.
And then we'll go through and override the system and give the credit to them. So, they won't have to do anything more, they're on a list, we'll calculate it, it'll be automatic.
Okay,
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Lonnie, do I have a second? Thanks, Mel, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
And then we'll get back to a flood item shortly, but in the order of the agenda is the revised Huizing and Kegler agreement, which scaled back their direct involvement, but they will be used as a resource as issues come up, essentially naming me as the point person. And the agreement does go through the end of 2020, but as I discussed with Brad Scheid, it can be ended at any point, so. And it'll be billed on an as usage basis.
Just to make sure, as part of this too, is, the reason we set this up this way, instead of just having them be the zoning administrator, and they have the option of setting up an 800 number where people can contact them automatically. Now, your hourly bill can get out of hand pretty quick, so, just to go with this agreement that Nancy is the point person, I'm not gonna contact Brad at Hoisington Cove and say, hey, we got a planning or a zoning issue. Council shouldn't be doing that, I understand. Nancy's, everything goes through Nancy as the interim zoning administrator, and then she determines whether we need to go to Hoisington Cove or not, so just to clarify that. Yep. So, entertain that motion.
I'll move to enter into an agreement with Hoisington Kegler for consulting work for planning and zoning.
Thank you. Have a second? Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great, okay, so we also, have been, we just in this packet are approving, the debris receipts that have been submitted on behalf of people. Yes, some of them we used the one service that went around and picked up, but you'll see in there the specific receipts to individuals, so, those were approved, but we're paying those then, but we still have a few stragglers. So I wanted to ask council if they could put an end date on when we will receive those receipts for people who have brought their debris to the county.
Any thoughts from anybody? I mean, we're 6 weeks out now from the last event, so to speak, but, you know, it took some people some time. I know, there's one person I need to check with who emailed me and had a kind of a unique situation with a stone fireplace in their basement with sheetrock behind it that they had to get a specialized contractor in to remove before they could get that debris out. And this is back the week that the contractor was coming, and he said, I don't think I can get it done this week. I said, well, even if it's next week, just bring your receipt in. So I just want to check with that person, since I did tell him that, yeah, bring it in, we'll get it. But for the most part, I think we can put a date on it, because everybody I've been out visiting with, all their stuff's gone.
Next Friday, end of August?
I'd give them more than 2 weeks, just to make sure that people have a chance to get the word out.
Yeah.
So, middle of September would be.
September 15th?
Yeah.
And I don't anticipate we're gonna get much more in it, but just so we have a date on it, say September 15th.
Yep.
Every month.
I agree. And the receipts are dated themselves, we know.
Sure. Yeah.
Within the time frame of the damage.
And I don't think we've had a lot of major taking advantage of that. I know we have some folks advertising to their friends out of town to bring their stuff by and drop it by the curb because the city was picking it up for free, but
I've heard that.
pick your battles. Yeah. Knock yourself out. I don't know.
Well, as I understand it, we won't be doing any of that pickup, it's only if they bring us.
Bring
Yep.
us receipts,
Yep.
yep.
So does that sound good?
Yeah.
September 15th?
Do you need a motion on that, or?
No.
No.
And then just to add to that, to mirror what Carl shared, if anyone is interested in applying the SBA, the deadline is September 30th, unless you're looking for economic damages. And you need to do that, even though the quick start is a later end date, you can't go to them until you've gone through SBA, so you really have to watch that September 30th date. And then just a reminder, the SEMCRA has a flood loan program that we're funding, and SEMCAC has a program as well. So I just wanted to mention that in case anyone's watching the video later on tonight. Then the request for pumps, okay, as a result of the discussions we've already been having to prepare and be ready with upgraded equipment for the next time. Public Works Director Bradford and Water Wastewater Supervisor Bozen and Brandon have been in discussions, and they've done research and looked at pumps along with hoses that might be needed. The recommendation is to go with 2 pumps to be mobilized at any time that we should need it, in upgrading to 6-inch pumps. And because it wasn't approved in the budget as a capital item for this year, that's why the request is coming forward, is because it's capital in nature.
Perfect. Any questions on that? That's what we asked them to do and put together with the price from last meeting, so I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of the pumps.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yep, the hoses and everything.
Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Nancy.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Nancy, the only thing I would ask is if we can make sure that that September 15th end date gets on the webpage and on social media.
Yep, and the newsletter,
And the
and the newsletter too. And it's the date of the receipt, not our close date. So, we'll make sure that's clear too.
Yep. Perfect. The engineers report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple of quick updates on some construction things before we jump into the items on the agenda tonight. The East Main Street Storm Sewer Project has started. That's in front of the police and fire station out to Maston Creek, so that East Main Street is going to be closed. We're obviously working with the fire and the police department to get access there. That project's going to go on through the winter months. Prairie Willows is the private subdivision on Old 14 going west over to Dodge Center there. That started, or is going to be starting here in a few weeks. We started a pre-construction meeting for construction, so that's going to be starting. Stone Ridge has started out on the dump road going out to Manorville there. That's going to be finished up and have lots available for this winter. 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we've been doing some punch list, driveway, concrete repours this week, the last couple days. So it's going to be wrapping up likely this week, and then we're going to do some concrete on Main Street in front of the Legion. We'll get a concrete slab in there to replace this, giving you an update. We're wrapping some jobs up and starting some new ones, so just a quick update there. So with that said, jumping into the agenda items there, so number 1 is 16th Street Northeast improvements. We have a resolution to approve the plans and order authorization or advertisement for the bidding of that project, and then we have some right of entry forms. 16th Street Northeast Improvement Project is the paving from the bridge on 16th Street out to Dodge County 15. That is a project about $1.6 million total project cost that we're looking at. About $1 million of that we secured through special grant funding through MnDOT, so that's $1 million coming into the city. Another $600,000, or kind of the remainder of that, can be used by our municipal state aid fund money. That's money that MnDOT gives us every year. We have sitting in the bank, kind of at MnDOT, if you will, to be used on our municipal state aid streets, and 16th Street is a municipal state aid street, so we're looking at utilizing those funds to complete the funding for that project. This resolution, if you pass it tonight, will go out for bids. We'll solicit bids from the contractors. It will not bind us into any contract yet. I'll get a later council meeting with that contract in hand, or the bid in hand, for the council to consider to enter into contract. Current schedule for this project is starting this fall. To get some of the rock corrected in there. As you may know, the rock's in some pretty rough shape out there, so we're going to make some corrections to the rock, cut down some of those hills, get started on kind of the grading work, see how the spring treats the road this spring, and then pave it this spring is the plan. So that's the schedule we currently have. And again, we have the right of entry forms in the council packet. We had to work with a couple of property owners out there to kind of grade back their driveways, make everything kind of tie out nice. Did some grading on the private properties, so we have secured all those that were needed. So with that said, I'd entertain the discussion on the resolution tonight. I do have the plans. I can get into them if you'd like, but again, we're just paving 16th Street from the kind of rural township gravel road that it is now to a little bit of a wider, flattening out some of the shoulders, redoing some of the ditches to meet some of our municipal state aid requirements, and basically upgrading that road. It'll stay rural, but it'll be paved to kind of a county road feel, with an 11-foot driving lane and then an aggregate shoulder, and then again, it'll be a rural section with no curb and gutter. For the most part, there'll be a couple of little spots where we cut down some of those hills where we have some curb and gutter, but very small amount compared to the project, so.
Perfect. This is what we were going to do early in the spring, but then winter had other ideas, and then June and July had other ideas of washing it away, so. Thank you for getting it out. Any other questions? Any questions for Brandon on that? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving the plans and ordering the advertisement of bids.
I'll make that motion.
Second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And do you need a separate motion on the right of entry forms, or is that included with that?
I would assume so.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Professional services.
Okay, so the second item tonight is a continuation of the conversation we had last month regarding some of the sanitary sewer backups and flooding that we've experienced, and we talked last council meeting about some different strategies on how to ultimately reduce I&I, which is that rain groundwater getting into our sanitary sewer system. So we looked at them all. We kind of had a whole list of different activities that we can do, and talked about some of the advantages, disadvantages, and ultimately got some, what I felt was direction from the council on moving forward. So we put together this engineering agreement to actually start some of the work. So with that said, I'll kind of go through the agreement on each of these items and give a quick summary. I'm obviously happy to go into some detail if we'd like to on what they are. Let's give kind of a high-end look at what we're looking at doing. So the first item there, the first kind of scope of work is the bypass pumping plan. That's probably a continuation. I've kind of done some of that work with the pumps that the council has previously approved. But ultimately looking at can we pump the sanitary sewer down faster to ultimately prevent the sewage backing up into the basements. Obviously, we'd like our sewer system to take the flow and not have that risk at all, but that's an unrealistic expectation. So if we have to bypass in the future, can we do a better job by buying bigger pumps, having a protocol in place to start pumping sooner? So that's some of the work that we'd include in there, working with Public Works, looking at what's been done in the past, looking at some of the properties that have been flooded, and ultimately deriving a plan to see if we can do better than what we've done in the past. So the second item there is a feasibility report and some modeling of the sanitary sewer. Specifically, that we're going to be looking at kind of the trunk lines, which is a larger diameter sanitary sewer that kind of collects from town as it groups mainly along Maston Creek, collects and ultimately goes down to the lift station. We think we have some bottlenecks potentially in that system, which may be causing some of these backups. We have all the I&I getting into the system and the floodwaters getting into our manholes and our lines. We think we may have some bottlenecks in there, so we want to kind of model that and see where they are, because once we start replacing pipes, it gets very expensive, so we want to make sure we're replacing the right pipes is essentially what we're going to be looking at there, and ultimately developing that kind of into our CIP. The mayor kind of said, well, what do we do? And I said, well, we can spend $10 million on this trunk line, but if we spend $10 million on the trunk line, I want to make sure it's the right trunk line we're replacing. So that's kind of what we'd be doing there, making sure, again, we're spending the right, large capital improvements in the right areas. The third item there, the backflow preventer program, that ultimately would be looking at, the city kind of has done a program in the past with mild success, I'll call it. Maybe do we want to promote that more and say we, the city, would be interested in the backflow preventer program, soliciting contractors for the work and doing a petition waiver program that's been done in the past. So we'd be working through there to ultimately help prevent the sanitary sewer in the areas we know have been frequently backing up into homes to install these backflow preventers, to look at helping citizens along to install those. And again, that would be through the petition waiver program. The fourth item there, and again, maybe I'll go back to the backflow preventer, maybe acknowledges the fact that we're not going to get the trunk line, we're not going to seal the sewer up probably fast enough, that we're still at a pretty high risk here if we get another 6 inches of rain, that these homes are going to back up again. We're just not able to upgrade all of our systems or shut the rain off fast enough to make that work. So I think that is a very important program. Public education, that was something, again, the council discussed. Is there a way to have a public outreach discussion with homeowners via social media, on the website, through the city utility billing, regarding backflow preventers, regarding when to call in if there's an issue, regarding maybe just education on our bypass pumping planning. There's a lot of false information out in the last rain events on what the city does and doesn't do regarding insurance, and recommending that homeowners become insured, because of the league may or may not be covering certain events. So that's something that we talked about and included in item 4 there. Manhole inspection programs. Our manholes are leaking. We fixed one that was leaking significantly. We're actually looking at a second one to fix up here. We know that we likely have more leaking. How many, and what extent, what's the fix, what's the capital improvements we should make? Is that a part of the trunk line replacement, that we replace manholes? Do we do manholes in town? Do we put different castings on? That's some of the things that we'll be looking at in item number 5 there, to kind of get our arms around there and again plan for our capital improvements to ultimately again knock down the amount of rain and groundwater that's getting into our sanitary sewer, overwhelming our system and backing into homes. The 6th one there is CCTV. That's televising our sanitary sewer, seeing where we have old clay pipe that's broken, that's leaking, that we may have cross connections, looking at the sewer pipe to see where we have problems within our sanitary sewers, to ultimately recommend what the future fixes are, where those capital improvements, where that money should be going to invest in our infrastructure to get the best bang for our buck there. That is for us to ultimately develop a contract and solicit bids for televising contractors to do that work. So that's that number, that $38,000, is very small compared to the total cost. That project is a significant amount of cost to actually do that televising, but that was in the previous budget that we discussed last meeting. So one of the things we did not include in there was smoke testing. It's one of the things we talked about. Public Works has done that in the past with minimal success, so they just said it probably wasn't worth our hassle. That might be something I coordinate back with Public Works, and I may not feel that way, but that's something that they thought was not something that they wanted to do at this time. So that was not included in there. This is about $15,000 less than what we kind of talked about. Just to kind of put in perspective, we talked about last meeting with some of these budget items. We didn't sit down with Public Works, and we didn't work out some of the scope. So we're We're about 15,000 less than what we kind of budgeted before. And again, the two things that are not on there is gonna be that CCTV televising contractor. That would be, if we agree to things tonight, moving forward with soliciting bids for that work. Because again, that's gonna be in the $250,000 range. Bring that bid back to the city hall, our city council for approval. And then the other one was the sump pump and the sanitary sewer lateral inspection program. That's not in this agreement here tonight. That is something that is bigger than what I was able to compare today, and something that we probably won't do till springtime anyway. So I wanna sit down with city staff and really refine what we do. Specifically, do we go into the new homes, do we not? Some of the recently reconstructed projects, what do we do there? So there's some refinement that we need to do to really bring that forward into an engineering agreement. But that is something that we would continue working with staff to bring that forward at a future date. So a lot of information is presented. Again, I'm happy to get into some of the gory engineering details if you'd like, but that was kind of the high-end discussion on the items that we've included based on what I felt was the direction the council wanted to go with.
Brandon, item number 1 includes discussion with the MPCA, right?
Yep, we would work with the MPCA there to
Yep.
make sure that they have their buy-in. We already know what it is, but we still want to make sure and double check with them to make sure that we're bypassing the way that they're going to find acceptable, because there is some laws and regulations associated with that. And our wastewater operators are licensed by the state, so we just got to make sure we're kind of minding all our P's and Q's there, making sure they're on board on both sides. So, with that said, just want the council to know, I think we talked about this last meeting, we start bypass pumping more often, there's going to be some outfall from that, from the MPCA, specifically them not wanting wastewater in their creek, obviously. I mean, nobody wants that, but that could be a future discussion that will happen if this continues, so.
I received some discussion from a colleague that I work with who lives in the Orinoco area, thanking me for sending our sewage to their area. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the news, there was some discussion on Pine Island, who also bypassed, I think it was like 94 communities in southeast Minnesota bypassed around the same kind of storm events that we had. So it's a chronic problem throughout the state and every town. You guys aren't the only ones, but we start bypassing more often. We're gonna be asked some hard questions, and they've been asked of the city in the past, so.
Right. I mean, it's not unique to Casson. Like I said, 94 communities in southern Minnesota. When you get that volume of rain, the systems just aren't designed to handle that.
No.
And but we don't want to do it. But if I had a choice between putting a program there like we're doing to get it so it doesn't go in somebody's basement, I'll pick people, property first. So, thanks for putting that together. Any other questions for Brandon on those? That's exactly what we asked for. And just, all the stuff we see as far as the dollars, all that doesn't hit this budget year. It's going to be over a period of time as the work is completed. So, I'll make the motion to approve the 6 items as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
I think that was it. Thank you.
And then just on the flood mitigation piece of it, that you've got the people in your office that that's all they do. And then we're gonna have this FEMA money available at some, we don't know when yet, but have you heard when that?
So when we met with Matt Moss and the state about the declaration, we were going to continue that conversation with another individual through the state. She was not available at that meeting, and I haven't heard back when she is available to continue that conversation.
So we're in
prepared to.
contact with it.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, personnel. Number 1, field administrator position. The first 3 on that list for personnel are fire department related. So fire chief was not able to be here tonight. He was out of town. We did have conversations with the personnel committee, which is Dwayne and myself, and we asked him some questions back, and he got those answered. All 3 of the changes that they're looking to make and the promotions they're looking to make to the different things were discussed as officers. They put it together. Things were decided. It was presented to the general membership. So everybody down there that's a member of the fire department is aware of this, and they're on board with it. They're ready to go. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of what's going on. So the first one is still the administrator position that they're anticipating will be changing at the end of the year. That's number one. I'm sorry, my eyes aren't looking right here. Steve Jones will be retiring at the end of the year, vacating that administrative position, so they're looking to get an intern in there to follow with them. And there's nothing that has a financial impact to the city for the rest of this year, so there's no financial impact to either, any of these three changes. So we're looking to add somebody to follow Steve for the next 4 months, so they don't have to do it on January 1st. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve this.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is title change. This is just some administrative title changing of training officer and administrative lieutenant to better fit the chain of command and make that more clear. Sorry, I closed my program. This would make Chris Shue from training officer to lieutenant, Curtis Alexander from training officer to lieutenant, and Steve Jones from administrative officer to lieutenant. So it's just a title name change. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Stan, thanks, Mel. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next one, K3. So they had, Jim McAndrews was made an assistant chief, so they needed to fill his captain position, so they're recommending that firefighter Jeff Alvey be promoted to the rank of captain effective August 14th of 2019.
That's a recommendation of the fire chief. I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, we're kind of out of order here, but this is the order of, if you look at number 5, Jeremy Casey with the electric department has submitted his resignation, which we'll approve in just a moment, I'm assuming. We had a line worker job posting already ready to go out there, or already out there.
Yeah, you have to approve it.
We have to approve it. We'd like to make that 2, since now we're gonna be short 2. So I'll make the motion to approve the line worker job posting for 2 positions. Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then 5, Jeremy Casey resignation letter. I'd like to thank Jeremy for his service to the city of Casson, and I'll move to accept his resignation.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And number 6, as Art mentioned earlier, and he gave us a letter we received today, he's going to be resigning as of November 29th, to retire. I'll make a motion to accept his resignation.
Second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I'd like to thank Art for his dedication and service to the city of Casson for the 7 years he's been
And then I just have one comment to add about posting for the line worker positions. In conversations with Rick Bartz from the union, it's understood that we have no one in-house who has any kind of certification. So he's agreed to let us post, but also immediately advertise.
Okay, without going
Instead
through
of
waiting
a 5-day
period. Okay.
waiting and whatnot. So we'll try and get anything out in a timely manner through MMUA, the league, post bulletin, and the DCI, as well as posting here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make just one comment, and, you know, this line worker, we're replacing people who have left or are leaving. But when we're requesting to hire additional, I'd like to see some justification come across, so we've had some time to review and digest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these
Yeah.
are replacements.
Yeah, but even with replacements, I'd like to have some information ahead of time, just to justify the reason why they want to continue at that current staffing level.
Okay.
Having a 1 or 2 sentence comment on a sheet of paper just doesn't do it for me.
It'd be nice if supervisor was here too, if we had any questions.
Yeah.
We will let,
I can ask you to come to the next meeting.
perfect. Perfect. Thanks, man. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Attorney's report, Dutch County Fair Agreement.
There is a revised use agreement, along with the original use agreement that was provided to the city by the Dodge County Agricultural and Mechanical Society it deals with the use of the ice arena during the fairground. The language that I revised, I just added a reference to a previous agreement that we had, the management agreement between the city and the county regarding the city's management of the ice arena. So for the most part, the verbiage stayed mostly the same. We did change it from the $10,000 per year to $7,500 per year. I never did hear back from Howie, is how I know him. I don't know, his name is Scott.
Steve Howard.
Steve Howard, okay. With regard to, that's how I know him. The dollar amount, the going from the 10,000 to the 7,500. As far as the use of the ice arena for the fair for 2019, they weren't able to sell as much of the ice time because they didn't think they had that ice time, and then by the time we reached an agreement with the county, he wasn't able to sell all of the ice time. So that was why he was thinking the 7,500. I'm not sure about moving forward. I'm assuming he also would have seen this agreement, so if he was uncomfortable with the 7,500 that we were proposing back, I assume he would have reached out and made a comment. So just wanted to bring that change to your attention. Otherwise, for the most part, there was a little bit of just logistics of the parking passes that we made a change in paragraph 3 there. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have about either this agreement or the maintenance agreement.
Sorry? Do we have copies of it? The agreement? Oh, it's
Did
supposed
I?
to be on Dropbox.
Yeah, I've got it by email, but I don't.
No, it's,
L1
Yeah.
Dropbox.
Oh, I don't have it now.
I mean, I had the email from earlier last week. when you
And there's
sent it.
nothing, I don't think anything has changed
Okay.
from the email that you got, so.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
so we approve this and we'll own for this year?
Yes. And that was just to kind of bring it up to speed, we had a couple ice arena meetings back in May, June sometime, about the whole taking the ice out for the fair and then putting it back in and lost ice time and the physical actual cost of doing that. You know, kind of threw out the idea to the fair board was, well, what are you gonna do with it? And they're gonna rent it out for commercial space, so many dollars a booth, whatever. Okay, we'll just rent it from you and keep the ice in it, because it'll be less expensive for us to pay X to keep the ice in it and be able to use it and not have to put it back in than the alternative. So that's where this company came about.
So what was the deal with the floor that got bought to put in there to keep the ice in there?
Yeah, so that was, yeah, that's a whole other issue. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
They wanted it out, though. That was discussed, that the floor was purchased to avoid having to take the ice out. But because even when you have the ice in there with that portable floor that they put in, it's still cold. So that was kind of the complaint, so we said, we'll just lease it back, we're gonna keep the ice in it and use it. So that's where this came from. So, all right. Any other questions for the attorney or any questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second? Snell, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence is in your packet. Any questions for anyone on that?
I got one question. When you do this income statement, is the ice arena listed on there? I couldn't find it anywhere. Is it?
It's on 606.
It is.
Yep. So it should be in there. So it's one of the last few pages.
Okay.
So right before liquor.
Oh, of course.
And then just a thanks to Nancy. I know the last 2 weeks it was kind of back into baptism by fire, and she gives me updates on a regular basis, which is great. but thanks for filling that role again. And just a reminder to council, bring your calendars with you next time for dates this fall, because there's gonna be a couple of dates. And at the next meeting, Liza's not gonna be able to be here, so she's gonna get all of us on the council ahead of time, the advertisement that she's gonna propose to put out there for the administrator position. And she's gonna call in, we'll start the meeting, do the pledge, approve the agenda, and then she's actually gonna call in. and
Well,
be-
I'm a phone in.
And be available for us to ask her questions, and then she can change it from there, and we can approve it, and then get that advertisement out as soon as they can get that done the next day. So she'll be available for questions, or if you have, she's gonna get it to us hopefully many days ahead of time. If you have questions, bring them prepared, or actually email them to her if you have ahead of time, so we can go through that process. But calendar is gonna be a big thing, because in the advertisement, they're gonna advertise the dates. And there's a few dates that we're gonna have to be available for preliminary interviews as far as getting the finalists, and then the actual interview dates of people physically coming to Casson to interview for the final interview. And we need to at least have a quorum available, if not all 5 of us, if we can find the dates to that. Okay? Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thanks. So second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right in. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Nancy.
Very much.
I may or may not be at the next meeting, that's what we may.
Yep.
So I'll, we can let Liza know that you won't be able to.
Well, yeah.
Are you gonna be gone ahead of time too?
No.
Okay.
No. But we're on vacation.